Do you feel like we're slowly, like our chairs are moving?
Yeah, slowly going
round and round.
Starting to
round
trust
and
you
round.
more as the interview's going
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Until we just start interviewing like this.
Trust, doubt.
Hi, I'm Ali, and I'm joined by Mike and Ben from Royal Blood for the latest in Enemies in Conversation series. How are you both?
We're good.
I'm
Yeah.
good, we're
I'm
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're good.
Amazing. New album, Back to the Water Below. What was kind of the vision going into that one?
I don't think we ever kind of set a vision or kind of knew what we were going to make. We came straight off the road from the last record and just began writing. Well, that's not true actually. Some of the songs from the record we had begun to write, and I think we'd even recorded Shiner in the Dark in the middle of touring Typhoons. So it was a process of discovery, and I think that's what's fun about making records, is kind of not knowing where you're going until it's too late.
But quite an instinctual, let's just kind of keep this energy going. We don't need to kind of sit down and have these big discussions about where Royal Blood is in 2023. It was just like, let's just do it.
Yeah, I think it's always dangerous to start designing songs or closing yourself in a box too early. I think, it was about being open-minded.
We're lucky to have a studio in Brighton as well, where when we feel inspired or feel creative that we can go to. And so the writing process becomes easier and the recording process becomes easier in that way, because it's whenever you feel inspired, you know. So songs can come from anywhere and at any time.
The album's incredible. I love it. Like, how different does this one kind of feel for you guys than kind of what's come before?
Kind of, there's a sense of a full circle thing to it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it nods to stuff we've done on the first album, but I don't know. For me, like writing songs or making records, you're trying to hit the bullseye of what you want to make, and they all miss. But this one feels the closest. It feels the closest as to who we are as a band and the kind of music we like and the songs we like to play live.
It's capturing this time as well, isn't it? This moment.
Yeah.
And coming from, being a riff rock band, kind of, it's nice to venture out and explore some other avenues, and I think this album really does that. I
think Typhoons kind of gave us, it kind of cleared the runway a bit, and we kind of proved to ourselves that, we can take this in lots of different directions. We're a bit more liberated than we realise. Whereas I think at the beginning, restriction was kind of the name of the game. That was the thing that was driving us, is all the things we couldn't do. And I think Typhoons just kind of eased that up a bit and allowed us to just go into the record making process with a bit of a broader palette, and knowing that we could do that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I guess looking back, Typhoons, super disco, super like almost dance punk. Like looking back on it now, everyone loved it. Like it felt like a massive success. But like, did it feel like a risk kind of going in that direction after kind of the previous two?
Yeah, I think it's the first time we'd felt like we'd really done the Bowie thing, where you kind of feel like your feet can't quite touch the floor of the water, and kind of being in that place. And it felt good. It felt like a proper step forwards. And I think every time you make a record, it's a reaction to the one you've just made. And in terms of this album, I would say Typhoons was made in lockdown. It was made in place in time where it was so uncertain if we were even going to be able to play live again.
Yeah.
So by nature, I think it was, really a studio album and something that took a lot of work to play live and work out how to do. So I think this new album was a kind of reaction to that, and was very like live inspired. Things like Mountains at Midnight were kind of written a lot in sound checks, and it was all about kind of things feeling natural and natural to play. Like if there was ever a part that felt just uphill or kind of clunky or something, sometimes in a studio you can sort of break it down into sections and not fully realise the whole performance. So it was all about like putting our natural foot forwards and playing together and sort of test driving things in sound checks. And so yeah, I would say it's where we were reaching for. We didn't know what it was going to sound like.
Were there any kind of specific moods or influences or kind of genres you kind of wanted to bring to, I guess, to the party on this record?
I think it was just about letting the songs be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Bono talking recently about people say that songs are their children, and he was saying how wrong that is. They're your parents. They kind of lead the way, and I really kind of resonate with that, because for us it was, I guess that we'd kind of write songs around the piano and feel like we had a really solid song, and then the song would just inform you where it needs to go.
Okay.
And I think there's good examples where sometimes you want to almost bully a song into fitting into how you think it should fit in your band.
Mm-hmm.
There's a song called The Firing Line on the record, and we spent a long time trying to make it things that it wasn't supposed to be and drag it around and kind of royal bloodify it, and the song just refuses that.
Yeah.
And we resorted back to how it began, which is something we've never actually done before.
Okay.
So yeah, I think there's a variety of kind of genres on this record, and that's because we just allowed the songs to tell us what they were supposed to be.
Amazing, yeah, because obviously like Mountains of Midnight is kind of the hardest and fastest kind of song I guess you've ever done. Pull Me Through is kind of this pretty piano-led number. You've got Waves, which kind of feels like a very stark song to kind of close out the record, and then it kind of feels like there's a touch of Elton John on How Many More Times. Like, did it kind of feel like everything was kind of on the table? Like anything sort of went for this record?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're inspired by putting a step forward into places where we've never gone before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and not being scared to do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we just let whatever creative ideas come in and whatever sounds and stuff. It's always, good to like try those things.
Do you kind of feel like you're at the point now where just going forwards, you could see yourself making, a strictly piano album or like an Elton John kind of jazzy thing? Does it feel like, the future Royal Blood's very kind of open at the moment with this record kind of done and, working and making sense?
Yeah, I think we've always been, from the very beginning, making sure that we had a good song beneath whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
That's the thing we've always really shot for, is like trying to write catchy songs, and what is the most important on this record is they feel the most playable. Like it's not reliant on any kind of aesthetic.
Sure.
You can strip it back, you can still hear the song.
So I think like the future of the band, it's always going to be about if there's a decent song, because then I think you can go into lots of different places. I think it's when you shoot for genres and you don't have this kind of content to kind of back it up.
Yeah.
Then it's totally all about the aesthetic, and I don't think we'd ever, like, this new kind of step forwards, like, again, wasn't intentional. It's just kind of where we've ended up. Like I would be worried if we sat down and wrote a list of genres we haven't done just for the sake of being like, look at all these things we can do. That would worry me a little bit.
Yeah, I was saying like, this artist's doing really well on TikTok. How do we kind of get into that audience, sort of thing?
Oh yeah, we do that every Monday.
Yeah.
Band study. Yeah, we study the market desperately. Yeah.
How are the synchronized dances going?
Not very well, as we're not famous on TikTok yet, but soon we will be.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is kind of the first fully kind of self-produced Royal Blood album. Was there kind of a moment where you were like, oh, actually, we don't need someone else to come in and help shape this record? Like, we've got this down. We kind of know what we're doing now.
Something we've began to realise is that the writing process and the recording process tend to happen at the same time.
Sure.
So a lot of the time, this happened on Typhoons as well, where we're writing a song and we're kind of demoing, and then we'd to the point where we were like, I really like this recording now, and we're nearly at the end of the process anyway. So it's almost self-produced by default,
sure,
rather than a premeditated idea. And I think it really serves for great recordings when you think you're making a demo, because for me anyway, when I'm tracking vocals or guitar, I'm just like, well, this is the demo, so it doesn't matter.
Sure.
And it always gives this carefree kind of attitude, which is what you want on a record.
Yeah.
rather than go into the studio to record it and it's all just like sterile and yeah.
Like we've kind of, it feels like you've kind of come into, you know what Royal Blood is, and it's not necessarily a sound or a genre.
It's when we play together, and it's when we make a song together. That's all that's required for it to be a Royal Blood song. And if you want to go somewhere new, then you just go for it, and then suddenly it is. I don't know. It's that we kind of don't think in those ways.
You mentioned like it was a full circle record. Is that kind of, I guess that was the attitude of the first record, because you weren't expecting it to do the things you did.
Yeah.
You kind of just started playing together and making the music you liked then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this record, felt like that, and it felt more enjoyable, this one, than I think the previous two, just because we got to let loose a little bit with it, and like the first one, we had no idea how that was going to go down. With this one, it's kind of the same thing, but also we have the confidence behind. We got 3 other albums.
Yeah.
That we were quite not worried about, but didn't know what was going to happen with the next 2, and we're here on the 4th. So
yeah, I guess the fact you are still making music, I guess it takes away the pressure a little bit, because you've got. I guess was there kind of a pressure with like previous records, like to live up to what come before, to kind of...
Everyone talked about the second one, didn't they? The weird second record.
I think there's pressure every time you make a record.
Yeah.
And I think for us, the majority of that pressure is kind of self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Because you're only as good as the last thing that you made. So, we kind of have like high standards for each other and ourselves, but that's okay. I think kind of exterior pressure is like really damaging.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to live up to someone else's expectations. Whereas I think as long as we're both impressed by each other, then I think we know we're onto something that's worth pursuing.
I think previously as well, there's like this time limit. You have all the time in the world to make your first record.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've got to, that comes out and it, did really well for us, and then we have to back it up, and that's where the pressure comes in, because you're like, well, we've never made a second record, what do we do? How do we evolve? How do we do something different but kind of keep what we've done? And then, and a lot of people talk about that in interviews and stuff, that second record. But yeah, we've passed that, and we know that we can write songs, and we enjoy writing songs, and so it just keeps coming out of us and developing.
Did Typhoons kind of give you? You touched on this earlier, but Typhoons kind of give you the confidence, like, oh, the audience is kind of willing to kind of go where we want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I would never I don't think like the audience is anything to like experiment on. And we just have to trust that our tastes align with other people's. That's all you've got. I think as long as we both love it, that's kind of it's kind of, it gets green lighted basically.
I mean, how was kind of the studio? Were you aligning quite a lot? Was that kind of?
Yeah, we're basically always in agreement. Maybe that's why we're so terrible. We very rarely kind of have disagreements, but I think if there ever are, that's it means that it's wrong.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we see it. With like, this isn't right, so we just leave it and move on to something else.
I guess because I know musically it was kind of first idea, best idea, but lyrically you kind of really spent some time like crafting the songs and making sure everything was kind of, I guess, as perfect as you could get it.
I guess like similar to the music making side of it, if I start the process with what do I want to say, I never write anything.
Okay.
It's more retrospective, but I guess kind of 80% of the way through the process I did begin to realise what I was saying, so it kind of helped some of the other songs out a little bit. Yeah, it seemed to me like as well I was writing from a similar place, kind of metaphorically.
I guess kind of broadly speaking, did it feel like a cathartic process writing this record? Did it kind of feel like you said what you wanted to say, even if you didn't know you needed to say it?
More like I'm like, wow, I'm really miserable.
Well, yeah, that's a nicer way of putting it. Did you?
Yeah. It always you sort of learn something about yourself, and sort of I try not to sort of, it's weird. I also try not to read too much into it as well.
Okay.
I think writing lyrics and writing songs is always really good for you and helps you get that. That's the only way I kind of get my kind of thoughts out.
Because I know you kind of announced it quite quickly after finishing it, right?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
in the time since, have you kind of gone back to it, listened to it, kind of taken anything new from it, or have you just kind of let it be and be like, I'm just going to wait till we play it live to kind of revisit these songs? And
I think there's been like a real appetite from both of us to play it live.
Sure.
I think it offers a lot of missing characters and dynamics in our show, and
Sure.
we always kind of think about records like that, really.
We listened to it so much, obviously, during making it.
Yeah.
And there's so many different versions of different songs and stuff. So I think it's important to once it was done to leave it a little bit.
Yeah.
But now it's like I'm personally listening because I know we've got to play some new tunes soon, so I've got to kind of learn them again. And just hear those drum parts and whatever. So yeah, I'm listening again now.
Does it feel like a fun record to play?
It is. But also, at this moment, it's a week to go,
Mm-hmm.
it still feels like it's mine.
Yeah.
And so I'm listening to it now, as selfishly, being like, before this gets delivered out to the world. It's a nice feeling.
It always sounds so different once it's out.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like you kind of finish making it, and then like Ben was saying, you get this weird period of time where no one's heard it. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of weirdly still yours, but I always feel like you're a few steps away from it, and then when it's out, it's like I always feel like I can hear it much clearer than ever.
Okay.
And I'm like, the vocals are too loud.
Yeah, how are you feeling like we're a week out? Are there nerves about because it is sonically a little bit different, lyrically it feels like it's quite revealing?
I kind of do this anyway. I really cement my feelings and my relationship with the record while it's been ours.
Yeah.
And in fact, I did that before, because although it's not out, a lot of people have heard it.
Yeah.
And I kind of did that when 4 people had heard it. And I think that's really important to do, because I wouldn't want anyone else's view on it to sort of warp mine.
Sure.
Or kind of, or make me just kind of forget how I do feel about it, Yeah, I don't feel nervous, because there's nothing to be nervous about.
I'm excited. I think it's when you're playing it to your friends, how you feel about it. I find so when you get excited about bits coming up and stuff, and that's
like this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you know. And then when you see their reaction, their excitement as well. When you don't get that, I feel like when I don't want to play a song to someone.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this song isn't connecting. Then
Do you think it's a hopeful record?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that black and white.
Okay.
Kind of what I was saying earlier. I guess I'm writing from the same kind of metaphorical place of being somewhere submerged and quite dark and
Mm-hmm.
alone, but I never feel I guess it's the first time where I didn't feel the need to kind of escape that.
Sure.
There's a kind of acceptance. So I would say it's kind of, there is a gloominess and a darkness to it, but there's also a kind of liberation and kind of accepting where you might be at in your circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of letting them be,
It does kind of feel like on songs like Pull Me Through or maybe Waves, there is kind of that hint of I guess community or outreach or kind of friendship or some sort of togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of think did that kind of come into the thought process at all? Was that an important?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I've only still learning how to do,
Yeah.
I think asking for help for me, I've always seen as weak, honestly.
Sure.
I've always felt like that, and so doing it for me in my own life has been really challenging, and now something I see as incredibly tough, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes serious balls to ask for help and to reach out to other people. So yeah, I guess it's hopeful in that sense, because it's writing from a lonely place, but it's also acknowledging that and connecting with other people.
Yeah, and obviously we spoke earlier about you not kind of knowing what you want people to take from it, but I guess if people can kind of see that, it is tough to ask for help, but ultimately it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, and it's funny, the whole tough thing with rock music, and
Yeah.
there's a sense when you're playing like a really heavy song and it feels kind of like badass and whatever, there is a kind of tough suit you can put on, and it's not entirely real. It's somewhat of a mask. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fun. It's fun to go into those spaces. But then I think we found songs like Waves and Pull Me Through. It's like being completely revealed, that they're really, you're not hiding behind anything. And I felt the toughest in those songs.
Okay.
You know, because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, I'm doing it. You know, I'm kind of like standing my ground and kind of, and hiding behind nothing. So, and I feel like we kind of do both on the record, actually.
For sure. I think they're going to be really cool moments live as well, I think.
Yeah. Hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to, it's another 10 songs or 12 songs that we can put into our set. And like, it's nice to have those moments of dipping down, because a lot of our shows recently have been like festivals, been on tour Muse, and those ones you just want to go out and, give it your all, and you've got 45 minutes to to really, show off. And so you normally play the faster, heavier things, where when it comes to our own shows, it's nice to have these different different, what am I saying?
Peaks and troughs.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
That's all I got right now. Dynamics.
Yeah, dynamics. Yeah, different places where we can go in the set.
Early days of your career, like Arctic Monkeys and Dave Grohl were kind of like really championed you guys. Do you kind of feel like it's important to kind of, give a platform to the next generation of kind of bands and kind of celebrate kind of new talent?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's an amazing thing to be able to do. Hotbacks are amazing, and
Bad Nerves.
Bad Nerves. We saw play a show in Brighton, and it was just like, I was just immediately blown away, and we kind of agreed that night, like, let's bring him on the road, and then like, it's just an amazing thing to be able to do. Yeah, it's a privilege to be able to do that, and
they'll be bringing us on the road soon, I reckon.
Yeah, I think we'll be opening up for them in about 3 years. So we're just being really nice to them right now, basically. I'm playing the long game. Yeah.
I guess sort of taking that new bands kind of keeps you on your toes as well, a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important, especially with like opening bands bring out an amazing opening band. So you go, oh my god, we need to we need to up our game.
Amazing. And somehow next year it's the 10th anniversary of the debut.
Yeah.
Like, are you planning to celebrate that, or are you going to kind of keep focusing on kind of?
Going to definitely celebrate it.
Yeah, we're kind of still working out how is best appropriate.
Yeah. Do you kind of feel it would be like a live thing?
Fireworks, I thought we're thinking.
Yeah, just
a
really good TikTok.
Maybe a firework display with the music being played behind it.
Yeah.
That'd be,
like a New Year's Eve sort of thing.
Yeah, drones and stuff.
You have been touring with Muse.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I mean, what were kind of your ambitions back then when you released that debut?
No, we didn't have any ambitions really to kind of make it to the next day. I think the ambition we had at the beginning was we'd spent like, I don't know, 300 quid or something recording like Figure It Out and Hole and Coming Over. And the only ambition we had was like, let's like at least make the money back for that, because otherwise this has been a waste. It's been a waste of time and money. And that was, that was like our golden ticket for us. That kind of put us here.
What about now? Kind of where do you want to take this? Where do you kind of see the future of the band?
I think it's about a feeling really, rather than like knowing where we want to go. Like, I think the feeling we have now is that kind of feel like we're playing at our best, and I feel really strong creatively at writing songs and making records. And I think as soon as that feeling goes, then it's time to take a break or stop. The cue's out the door for what we do, and I think that's the driving force for us, is that we actually love what we do.
Yeah.
What is it about kind of that debut record and kind of the albums that have followed? Why do you think people are kind of connected to your band in the way that they have done?
It baffles me. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could like, there's lots of ways of looking at it. I guess there was like maybe that era was there wasn't really much rock music.
Well, no, because if you look at the other bands, kind of the big British bands celebrating, it's like 1975, Church is like quite like electronic.
Yeah. I think when we were like recording, it was we were kind of like, no one likes this anymore, but let's do it anyway. You know,
There was a big focus on it just being us two as well, and the sound that we had from Mike playing a bass instead of, you know, there's no guitars, and so I think.
And I wore funny shoes.
Yeah,
Did you?
No, I didn't really.
No.
they were funny. I thought they were funny. Yeah. I think that it's when people come and see us live,
Yeah.
and they can see it. There's no, you know, backing tracks. There's nothing going on. It's us two just playing, and I think that's what really drew our fans in.
And is that kind of why they're still coming back now, do you think? Because it is still very live focused, still kind of...
Yeah, I think so. Our fan base is brilliant, you know, and very loyal. There's a couple of people that come to like every show, pretty much, and it's amazing the dedication that they put into our band.
I think there's like a shared feeling as well of like our shows are a lot of fun. There's a really kind of feel good atmosphere to them, and that's kind of where we're at on stage as well. It's until we start playing the really sad songs, and then it's
gonna ruin that.
Yeah, I'm really gonna ruin that. Yeah.
Do you feel like we're slowly, like our chairs are moving?
Yeah, slowly going
round and round.
Starting to trust you more as the interviews go on. Yeah.
Until we just start interviewing like this.
Trust, doubt.
Well, before it gets any worse,
Yeah.
I will let you get on. But thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Of course, thanks.
That's
Cheers.
great.